the system here is not very helpful.
No problem.
It's just, you don't teach an old dog a new trick. And I'm learning new tricks every day.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You know, it's old-fashioned technology is kind of, you get lag behind on it, and then you can't really catch up to the new stuff.
And when it doesn't do what you expect it to do, you get lost.
Yeah.
Okay. Let us start with the questions I got. Okay. Okay. The first question is, I am in an unhappy marriage. I know my husband doesn't love me, and at the same time, he does not want to release or divorce me. He lies, betrays, and cheated on me all the time. How do I opt out of the marriage in good faith? Will it be a sin for me to ask for khula?
Can you spell khula?
I'm sorry, Khula. This is how it's written. Okay. Well, first we need to make sure that what you have concluded is correct, complete, and accurate, and it is done with his knowledge. For example, when somebody says, my husband doesn't love me, it may be your feeling, it may be that he was not doing well that day, or it may be a habit that he doesn't like or a way that he doesn't appreciate. So make sure that your reasons are well placed first. If these reasons are what you say they are, then Islam gives you the right to ask for divorce. And as I explained before, divorce is different from you divorcing him. Him divorcing you is your right when he does things that hurt you. Like he does not provide for you, he does not take care of your basic needs, any of that, then he is short of his duty as a husband. In those cases, Islam gives you the right for divorce, and he should be brought to the attention of the imam or someone that can help you process this complaint of yours. In this case, the imam will have to hear both sides, and there is a process to go there, okay? But Islam gives you the right, and you will not be sinful to ask for divorce. Okay, the following question, it says, some Muslim men are using the word my rights to force their wives into accepting polygyny, bringing in a lot of pains and trauma to the first wife, leading to a broken marriage. Why is it that men are not thinking twice before doing that and later regret their action? I will just add one word to your question, the word some men. Not all men do that. This may be a side issue, but just to get to the accurate expression that we all need to always be careful not to over generalize, okay? So people who do this only focusing on the right and neglecting their duties, which is not mentioned in the question, and not thinking of consequences, are not fully either aware of their responsibility or they are just selfish and have big ego, and they think that uh, it is good enough that I accepted you. You should be grateful that I married you. If this is the attitude, then you may need to change the trees you're barking on. Which means you should just seek out of this marriage if the husband is not listening to what you're saying, okay? But let me tell you this. The only way you can stop water from running in any direction is to build a dam. But normally water runs wherever there is a space. If there is no space, there is no water, stream. Water will stop. But when the water faces a piece of wood or stone, it comes around and goes. So if you are living in a circle where men are seeking to just fulfill their desires and they are not respectful of women's basic needs, you may want to change that kind of circle. You may want to try to see a broader circle of surrounding so that you can have a better access and people have better access to who you are, and your qualities will distinguish you among all others. Of course, it's difficult for me to get into the heads of these people, but I hope that my answer will suffice, inshallah. The following question is, I was married Islamically first. Then I married legally. Then after 10 years, I got divorced legally, but was married still under Islamic law. In order for him to have 2 wives, does that mean that I am still Islamically married? If you didn't understand the question, it is because it's confusing. But the sister is talking about a phenomenon, unfortunately, that many people go through, which is, I love you until I marry you, and then after marrying you, you are already my wife under the law and under Islamic law. Then I look for another wife because you did something I don't like, or because I'm just, following my desires. And then I want to marry another one, but I don't want to go to jail. I don't want the law to go after me. So what I do is I divorce you, the wife, to marry another wife. And then you have nothing to go after me because the law is not on your side. If you accept to be divorced under the law, you accept to give up your protection, because unfortunately, Islamic law is taken for granted by people who don't fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what do? They get their protection under the law, but they don't care to be protected under Islamic law. So what do? They keep you as a wife under the table, as I mentioned before, and they go and marry someone else under the sunlight of the daytime. So you put yourself in and under the table. This is not a good position for you to do to yourself. So the only thing is, you don't accept divorce under the law. We are either married or not married. It is not fair, it is not just, it is not Islamic that somebody keeps you as a wife under the table or get another wife under the table. Marriage has to be public, it has to be protected, it has to be in the open, it has to be publicized. Your children must be known, your right for inheritance must be protected. This is what Islam says. To answer the question, which I didn't, does this mean that I'm still Islamically married as a co-wife? It depends. If he goes on his own and he divorces you in the court, many Muslim scholars, especially the Fiqh Council of Europe, they would consider this as an Islamic divorce. Some others, which are in the United States, they do not consider it as Islamic divorce because you both did not intend to divorce, especially the husband. So he is only releasing himself from the legal bond of marriage, and he is pulling you out of the legal protection for your marriage and your family and your children. This is not acceptable in my view under Islamic law, and I believe that if a man divorces his wife in any way, the hadith of the Prophet that I'm following as a guide says three matters, the laughing statement and serious statements are one and the same. Among them is divorce, setting your slave free. So if somebody and marrying your daughter, so it is binding. So if I go to the law and say, I want to apply to divorce my wife, and they say, fill this application, and the man fills the application and signs that he has divorced you, you are divorced. This is especially if you were married here. And basically speaking, no man goes to divorce his wife legally if they were not married under the law. I hope that this answer would suffice. Yes. I saw an online light switch made from Quran verse, which means a Quran verse is written on it or typed on it. I think it is inappropriate for them to be selling such a thing. Please, what is your intake? Well, people use lamp light to make the verse written shine and be read. Okay? So if they benefit from it as light and they benefit from what it's written on it, then they are within acceptable norm. But if it is just posted and nobody looks at it, nobody reads it, the Quran is not meant for decoration. And this is an insult to the word of Allah. The Quran is meant to be understood, to be reflected upon, to give us the spiritual light that we need, and for us to apply it in our life and benefit from it. So if that post on that lamp is used for benefit, it's okay. If it is not, it should be removed. Why does a woman's older struggle, a man young and older right?
Huh?
I'm sorry, I don't understand what the question is saying. I will read it again. Maybe Chip can help me. Here is the exact word. Why does the woman's older struggle, a man young and older right? If you mean that why do we struggle with younger men and we don't struggle as much with older men, if you mean this, it may be because an older man is wiser and he is able to accommodate and contribute to his family better. Maybe an older man is a little bit more patient and maybe other qualities as well. That is the best I could make of the question, and that's the answer. Okay, another set of questions I have here. Are health and life insurance haram in Islam? Islam prohibits deceitful contracts, contracts that embed cheatful practices inside the contract itself. Let me define what is deceitful in the Islamic definition. In fact, it is the same as the language says. You know, when you say, my husband is cheating on me, he is not fulfilling the contract. But when the insurance company fulfills the contract itself is deceitful. Why? Because whether you benefit from the contract or you don't benefit from the contract, you must pay your monthly premium to stay a member of the group. And whether you get the benefit in 10 years or 15 years or never get a benefit, what you are buying is a concept. What you are buying is a concept. What is the concept? The concept is insurance. This is what you're buying. What is insurance? It is protecting yourself against the headache of something sudden that may cost you a lot of money. That's what we are all buying. On the other hand, let us take an example in the car insurance. Car insurance, you pay monthly premium, and then in 6 months, you run into an accident. Then your car is complete loss. So how much did you pay? Let us say $100 a month. You paid $600, but your car is about $50,000. And your insurance will cover 100% of that. So 600, they paid $50,000, right? So for you, it looks like a very great deal. But for someone like myself, or maybe Chip, who have been driving for 40, 50, 60 years, not Chip, me, and and never run into an accident, and paying $100 a month per car. Calculate this money for me. Let us say 50 years only. 50 years, okay? 50 years times $1,200 a year. How much?
60,000.
$60,000. What am I buying? Headache. I'm buying out my headache. That's what insurance is. Now, the question is, two questions are raised by this issue. What do we do with health care? In this country, there are three issues that will cause this country to collapse financially. Housing, which it did at least twice. The second is usury, the financial sector. The third is insurance. Let me add the fourth. The fourth is the healthcare system. And if you see what is the common thread between the four sectors, the common thread is extravagant spending and cheatful marketing. If you only pick the pharmaceutical companies, a medicine that may cost them $5, $10 to produce, they sell it for $200, $300, $400. And then they say, oh yes, because we are researching the next level of medications. But if you look in reality, you see the exorbitant amounts of money they are making for their shareholders, for their executives, in the millions and billions of dollars. You know they are lying. And if you don't want, if you want to prove this, look for the cigarette tobacco companies. When they appeared before the Congress, 7 major tobacco companies, executives, sitting in front of the members of Congress, and they were asked, do you know that your product causes addiction? They all said, no, addiction is a matter of habit. It depends on the person, and it doesn't depend on our product. Later on, the Congress did an investigation, independent investigation, and they found that they were deliberately adding addictive materials to the tobacco to sell more and to continue to sell for life. So we have companies that give us the fact that company executives of the highest level do sit in front of the cameras and have the audacity and the heart to lie to the public and to the Congress in violation of the law. And guess what? They get away with it. I'm sorry I went into a tangent here, but I want to go back to your question. The question about life insurance and health insurance and those types. Health insurance in particular, because the norm in this country is that there is no social medicine. What is social medicine? Social medicine is when you develop your own co-op insurance. Then you have the power to manage it and run it the way you want. We are 20, 30, or 1,000 people. We cooperate together. Everybody shares some of his money. And whenever anybody faces a deep need for health care, then this fund will provide the cover for that person. And nobody wants to exploit it. No one makes a profit out of it. No shareholders. You are the funder, and you are the shareholder, and you are the beneficiary. This structure of health insurance is beneficial. The same is true for car insurance. I will not pretend that I will solve all the insurance related issues in an answer to a question. So I will stop here, but just as a final comment, Muslim scholars have agreed that when needed and necessary, or when it is the norm, health insurance is allowed, even though it is not acceptable Islamically. So you don't need to run to cancel your insurance. Okay? Likewise, car insurance. But all else, where the risk is minimal and the benefit is really minimal as well, then don't do it. Even if the benefit is high but the risk is minimal, you don't need to do it. Life insurance points to the fact that we don't trust God, who provided for us for life, to provide for our children or spouses after we die. Who provided for us for years and years and years? That's Allah. We worked, and so on and so forth. So one of the things I always advise families is, do not sit your wife at home unless she cannot work. She cannot work, maybe because she has young babies to take care of, young children to groom and to raise and to develop or to teach. But if she can work, let her work, so that she is building her own pension plan, her own social security income after she grows old. And also raise your children to love and respect their parents, so that they don't kick you in the street when you grow old and they have the means to take care of you. I'm sorry that it took me time to get here, but this is what I think the answer to this question. Is eating or drinking while standing prohibited? The answer is no, it is not. But don't make it a habit, because the Prophet ﷺ was keen to sit down when he drinks and sit down when he eats. So let the foundation be that we sit down when we drink and eat. And some doctors who studied those issues, they say it is much healthier that you drink while sitting and that you eat while sitting. But if you happen to be standing and somebody handed you a cup of water and you are thirsty, you can take your drink and drink it, and this is not haram. The next question, what is the difference between salat, choice salah, and late night prayer? I will say the word in Arabic because the question is written, transliterated into Arabic. Okay. Again, the question is, what is the difference between salat, istikhara, I-S-T-I-K-H-A-R-A, and the prayer of tahajjud, T-A-H-A-J-J-U-D. The difference is tahajjud prayer is late night prayer. It is a prayer that you do at the late night time, which is the last third of the night. the last couple of hours before Fajr. Before Dawn. Dawn. D-A-O-N. D-O-W-N. But istikhara prayer, which is the first, it is a prayer of asking Allah to choose for you. That's why I translated into choosing prayer, that you pray to Allah to make a choice for you when you are about to go into something especially important issues like marriage, divorce, anything important in your life, accepting a job, moving to a new apartment, anything important in your life. You should ask Allah to show you the way and the best choice. Some people think when I do this kind of prayer that I expect a miracle to happen to show me something stark, but that's not necessary. You do the prayer and then you do your calculations and you do consultation with people who are experts in the field, and then you go about whatever Allah opens your heart for. Okay, so next question, where can I find women's health and more other hadith? Oh, I'm sorry, women's hadith, which means prophetic traditions about women, and more other hadith books, more other prophetic traditions references. We have basic 9 references that Muslim scholars study to learn the traditions of the Prophet, besides the books of history and biography of the Prophet himself. Besides the verses of the Quran that speak about women issues. Like in Surah Al-Baqarah you will find, in Surah Al-Nisa you will find, in Surah Al-Talaq you will find, in Surah Al-Tahrim you will find, in Surah Al-Ahzab you will find verses upon verses talking about family life, women rights, women duties, and so on and so forth. So the primary reference is in the Quran, and if you go on the internet and write the term prophetic references about women, and it will give you thousands upon thousands of references. Okay, all of these prophetic traditions are available, and if you want to seek them in the form of books, you can write on Google books of prophetic traditions or books of Sunnah, S-U-N-N-A-H. So this will give you the list of books of prophetic traditions. Okay, the following question. If a man or woman knows that Allah has forbidden mankind from committing adultery, and they still do it, what is their punishment on the Day of Judgment? Well, basically, adultery is an abomination. Adultery, fornication, any act outside of the legal, proper Islamic marriage in that class of action is prohibited. And it is badly described in the Quran. It is described as a vice. It is described as evil. It is described as abomination. And something that Allah describes as He hates it. Allah hates adultery. Allah did not create us in the form of a male and female to exploit each other or to please each other outside of the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know that in the 80s and in the 60s, when the sexual revolution started after World War II, the country went into a lot of sexual diseases because of the freedom to get out of your marriage realm and commit adultery with anybody, man or woman. And the law is, since it is done with consent from two sides, two adults, then it is legally protected. Nobody could tell you this is right or this is wrong. And this has led to the spread of sexual diseases, even to people who are having monogamous sexual relations. Besides, some people end up turning into sexual addicts. And this is very dangerous because you lose control over your own sexual desire and you become hostage, and you become real hostage to somebody offering you the few minutes that you please your desires with. And while this is not the central issue, but it happens that sexual partners in many cases ended up either poisoning each other or poisoning one another or hurting one another or even killing one of the partners. So while people kill away from adultery, but again, adultery does not offer you the haven that you may seek. Besides, when you have a desire, which we all have, it is normal, it is natural, it is part of who we are as humans. We need to ask, why did Allah put this desire in us? Allah put this desire in us because He created us as a reproductive creature. We can we can produce children. Excuse me. I'm sorry. So Allah made us with our desires for sexual pleasure so that the family bond is stronger, so that both sides are satisfied. And that's why you see when one side in the marriage is not happy with satisfying this desire fully, then the family and the structure starts to fall apart because one side is not happy. It is like daily interaction. If somebody is always grumpy and difficult and clashing and violent and angry, the other side is not happy. And marriage is based on mutual acceptance and mutual pleasure, mutual happiness, mutual satisfaction, which means all women have one mission in marriage: to please Allah by pleasing their husbands. And all men have one mission as husbands: to please Allah by pleasing their wives. To understand how cruel it is to cheat on one's wife or husband, and to appreciate why Allah hates it so much, you need to look at the power of our innate nature. We are not cats. We are not dogs. But even a cat or a dog, when they steal food, they run under the couch or behind the cabinet. They hide. But when you feed them with your own hand, They eat it in public in front of you, and they eat it without anxiety or stress. They are happy, and they pat their heads against you to tell you thank you. Sometimes they jump on you and hug you. If this is the nature of animals, how dare any human being would do cheating and say, it makes me happy? No, it makes you a thief. It makes you a cheat. It makes you lose credibility and honor and dignity. So it is an abomination, which means it is hated and disliked by Allah. So the question here is, what is their punishment on the day of judgment? Their punishment is they will be in hellfire. Okay, somebody is asking to leave the meeting. Thank you.
Yep, no worries.
Okay, so the punishment is that they will be in hellfire. Unless they repent before dying. Not on the deathbed, but they repent before dying, before the sliding slope gets in, before taking their last breath, before feeling that they are dying. Okay, the other question says, problem after family reasons and couples are not happy about living in the same house with parents or force them to see them, embarrass them about their personal life. That is not a question, even though it comes with a question mark.
Maybe what to do about that?
Maybe what to do about that. You're right. Well, when we are in difficult situations, and living with in-laws is one of those situations, we have to be overly wise and overly patient. If you don't have wisdom and patience, do not accept to marry someone who tells you that you have to live with his family. Because living with parents puts a lot of pressure on both husband and wife, irrespective of whose parents they are. It really doesn't matter. Parents are a different generation. They see things differently. They want things done differently. They see time differently. They see space differently. They see the light level differently. They see up to a distance, okay? So their whole views become, and their nature becomes like children, especially when they grow really old, like over 70, 75, 80, then they need somebody to really take care of them. They don't need to take care of someone else. And they lose patience like children, because for them, time is only now. There is no tomorrow, there is no 1 hour to wait for. So if they want dinner, they want it now. If they want tea, they want it before you make it. So they become very demanding like children. When children want this toy, they do not accept any other. When they want it now, they cannot wait for next hour. And when they don't want to do something, they don't want to do it, no matter what. Old adults of old age, they turn into children. And the Quran talks to us about this phenomenon. The Quran says, and whomever we let live to an old age, we turn them upside down. What does it mean? It means we return them into the early stages of life, which means to become like children. Children are dependent, old adults become dependents. Children are in need of every type of help. Very old adults are in need of every type of help. Children cannot help themselves. Adult, old age people cannot help themselves in many ways. They become fully dependent in some cases or partially dependent on many cases. So living with them in the same household is very problematic. So you have to have a lot of patience. And if you do have patience, you get a lot of reward for helping your husband take care of his parents. But you have to be patient with whatever they do. If they don't like what you're saying or what you're doing, be patient. Allah will have a way out for you one day, and those parents are not going to be controlling your life as much as you think they will for life. So patience and listening and compassion will help you navigate yourself with this situation. Okay. Another question, if a man knows that he cannot have a baby, should he marry a woman? Is this prohibited if he keeps his wife suffering living with him with no baby? The doctor told the husband that he cannot make a baby. After reading his reports, his family and his family-in-law knew this news. Should I seek divorce or keep marriage? Well, everything in life is a trade-off. I give you $10 to buy something that I believe that is worth $10 or more. If you give me something that's not worth it, then I ask for my $10 and give you what you gave me. Everything in life is like this. And that's why I always say, if a husband or a wife is not satisfied inside the marriage, either one could seek divorce. And divorce could be because I am not satisfied. And this is what is called khula, Khula. Okay? When the wife asks for divorce and the husband is doing all what he could, he is not short of supplies, not short of provision, not short of nicety, not short of being kind, but she is not satisfied. If she is not satisfied, then she can seek divorce. If the husband is not satisfied, he can divorce. Okay? So the same right is given to the wife, but in a different process. Okay? But it is always a trade-off, especially if you have children. Okay? Because after divorce, is not going to be a nicer relationship better than divorce. It's not going to be better than divorce. But if you are in a situation that is difficult like this one, then definitely Islam gives you the right to divorce. But if you are patient and stick by and do this for the sake of Allah, Allah will reward your patience. But you have to be really patient, because some people say, I will be patient, but they keep piling grudges on top of each other until they explode. That's not real patience. That's deceptive patience. Patience is to restrain yourself and to release the pressure that is coming because of the situation. Okay. So it is a choice that you have, but don't make this choice lightly. Okay? Well, let me see. There is a live question that is coming here.
No,
Okay.
just keep on focusing on the list.
Okay, I will go on the
Don't
list.
even
Thank
worry
you.
about the live questions.
Okay, so those will be collected later?
Okay, will do.
So you can copy them and keep them. Okay.
Will do.
Okay, the next question is, I am a sister married for over 10 years with 3 kids. If a sister deliberately stays single for a long time despite some good single man proposing for marriage, and she turns them out. All she wants is to marry the married man, even if it would break the family that he has, and it will hurt the children, but she doesn't care. Then the questioner says that she uses the reason that I was his first girlfriend. It is sad, as it is, she succeeds in getting what she wants. Now, my question is, if I decide to opt out of the marriage, knowing very well that it would hurt my deen and cause me depression, does it mean I commit a sin? Well, Allah says, do not cause yourself harm and do not cause harm to others. This is in the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ. So if you know definitely that this will cause you depression or any other thing like it, and those are not light or easy consequences to live with, then be careful. As I said, everything is a trade-off. So you are in a marriage, you ended up having half a husband because he has another wife. You need to ask yourself, is his presence in my life more satisfying than his absence completely? With 3-4 children, do I have a chance to get another husband who can devote his life for me and for my children better than their own parent, their own father? Those are questions to entertain. I know it is a difficult situation, but one has to balance between the pain I have and the pain I will cause myself and my children. So it is a personal decision. If you cause yourself harm, you will be responsible for whatever consequences. People who get depression, and depression is a serious disease. It is not, it could be fatal. It could cause a person to commit suicide. So this is not a light issue. This is not a flu. This is not even corona. This is a real serious disease with serious consequences. So be careful what you cause yourself of harm, and do not throw away a blessing that you may have now, seeking a blessing that you don't have today. If you are grateful for what you have, Allah will give you more. If you deny what you have, why should you ask Allah to give you more or better or different? So one has to be careful. Then the second part of the question, she says, what advice do you have for such sisters? Well, I gave the advice to the sister who is already the mother in the marriage, who is the first wife, and she is concerned that her husband may marry that woman who is refusing single husbands and they want to get a married husband. The question does not ask, why is this sister doing that? Some sisters, I believe, and I may be wrong, they want to marry a married person because if they marry a single person, they may become the relegated first wife, and the husband will go for another one, and she will become the one left behind. So she wants to be the one that he comes to after he had already had experience with someone else. So she wants to be the crown in the house or the queen in the house. Okay? But this is not a good practice in Islam. In Islam, anyone who may cause anyone else to break their house and safety and security in their own home down, they are not liked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If a woman tells her husband, you either divorce her or you divorce me, she is not pleasing Allah by asking this. Because you are a wife, she is a wife, no matter how she got married to your husband or the vice versa, you should not work to hurt your sister because of your own desires. If we become in polygamous marriage, we are marrying a person who is married more than one wife, we always ask for justice. And the Quran makes justice a condition for this marriage to succeed and to be legitimate. Okay? Then it is not just to ask for divorcing her to give you that, or to not go back to her and to stay with us longer and to give us more. Those conditions violate the concept of justice that we ask for ourselves, and we should love for our sisters what we love for ourselves. For the sister who is seeking to marry someone who is not satisfied with his current wife to become his second wife, I would say the following. You are potentially destroying somebody's life and home and peace to build your own. And there are so many who are ready to marry you and make you the queen in their life because they don't have anyone but you. Accept the ones that fit your expectations and do not seek to marry anyone who is not stable in his life, who is not wise with his wife. Okay. Another question. Assuming that both wives were married Islamic way without a legal certificate, however, one wife is socially recognized, meaning families and friends both near and far know of her and the kids, while the other wife, on the other hand, is kept as a secret. Does it fall under the rubric of injustice? And what are the punishments of such action? Yes, this is unjust and unfair to marry someone and publicize them as your wife and to beget children and say, this is my children, this is just. But if you hide someone in the background, or as we said before, under the table, this is not just. This is not fair. And you will be punished on the day of judgment for this. What is the punishment? You want to know the punishment? They will come on the day of judgment and their body is painfully tilted that they cannot walk straight. It will be painfully tilted. Another question. I have a question. When I was young in my country, I don't remember age exactly. It was during Ramadan month. When I was breaking my fast in Ramadan, I took my bread and ran in the bathroom and hid there and ate during Ramadan month. In a few days' time, my mom just caught me and taught me that fast, and my mom did not explain deeply that Allah does not allow eating and punish Ramadan just based on that. I don't know. So can I fast for 60 days now? I am concerned. No, you don't need to fast 60 days. If you were young, you are forgiven. If you don't remember the age, most probably you were a child under age, which means under the age of puberty. So if you did this while you are young, you are forgiven because you were in your days of training to fast and fast properly, okay? But if you were after being an adult and you did this, then you need to make up the day that you fasted because you did it not knowing that it is not pleasing to Allah to break the fast intentionally. So if you were ignorant and you didn't know the law, then you need to fast one day for each day you missed or you broke the fast. I have a question that's almost a page long. I will ask Sister Aisha to try to summarize or break down any long question like this into small questions if you can. But I will read it so that you know what I'm talking about. Many people use, well, it is not haram, which means impermissible in Islam, as a marker of justification for something that may be socially or culturally unacceptable. These are the children of Israel loopholes that some look for when they want to follow their desires. So the question was, if a man marries a second wife without telling his first wife, is it haram? No, it is not haram. But it is not the right thing to do. So why didn't Allah include in the haram list everything that we know that it is inappropriate? Because Allah has covered this in the rubric of a word, a term that is used in the Quran, and the word in Arabic is ma'ruf, M-A apostrophe A R-O-U-F, ma'ruf, M-A-A-R-O-U-F. What is ma'ruf? Ma'ruf is the norm. What is the norm? The norm is there are things that we know it. It's like I told you before, our innate nature, the given nature inside us that Allah has embedded in us, it is something that we know what is right by our heart and we know what is wrong in our heart and conscience. So if our conscience says it is haram, maybe it is, maybe it is not. The only haram is what Allah found to be deserving of that list. It doesn't mean that everything else is great. No, there are things that are not great, but they are not acceptable either. Okay? For example, is it haram to spit on the side road?
To spit on the side road?
Yeah, yes, on the curb. Is it haram to spit in the street? The answer is no, you don't find this, right? But is it acceptable? No, it is not. So not everything that is not haram is acceptable. And if the Quran were to include everything that is prohibited, the Quran would not be a book that you could carry. So Allah chose what He describes as khaba'ith, what is evil, wicked, what is patently wrong. To say adultery is prohibited, fornication is prohibited, swearing and cursing is prohibited, giving nobody any benefit of any doubt and using conjecture is prohibited, lying is prohibited, cheating is prohibited. Those are things that Allah listed, right? And there are so many other things that are listed as prohibited. But Allah would not tell you, for example, don't spit on the side road. But because He knows that by instincts, we know that it is not decent. It is not exhibiting self-respect or respect for the society and the environment. So I will move on to the rest of the question, by the way. So the sister is saying, some people are saying, if something is not haram, it means automatically that it is okay to do. And she is saying, this is not true. This is not true. Let me explain, because I have read the question several times to understand what it is driving to. And the question is discussing an issue that some people are saying, for example, since marrying another wife is okay, then nobody should object to it. Yes, from a legal standpoint, you are right. But do you apply the rules to yourself? Do you plan to live a just and fair life to all of your spouses? Do you have the means to provide for all of your children? Do you have the energy and the time to distribute between 2 households or 3? So these are the things that the sister is trying to say. We have to understand, so that nobody manipulates the religion for their own selfish desires. Like, for example, the husband says, my wife must obey me, right? But there is a limit. What is the limit? The limit is you should not order her to do something prohibited. You should not stop her from visiting her family unless her family is blatantly causing interference and harm and problems in your house through her. But this should apply also in the opposite way. If the husband's family is interfering in his family life, then he should also not allow them to interfere in his life. So it works both ways. So she is saying in her question, and this is why the question is long, she is saying that people who marry someone and keep her in a secret marriage, or worse yet, divorcing a wife in the court so that he can marry another wife in the court, this is an abomination. This is prohibited. So she is saying what people regard by natural instincts that Allah has taught us should have exercised good judgment about what is right and what is wrong. Something doesn't have to be in the list of haram to not do it. There are things in the list of the makruh, the disliked behavior. Okay? Allah does not like injustice. So I will leave here because the question is really, really too long. I hope I answered much of the issues raised in this question. Why is divorce high in the Muslim community? Because people are living by desires, feeling, anger, worry, fear, insecurity, selfishness, like everybody else. Marriage is made between two people. Divorce is also made between two people. As marriage could be proposed by one side or the other, divorce also could be initiated by one side or the other. But the reasons are typically the same. We are all humans, we have deficiencies, and we must be patient. And sometimes we can be patient, some other times we cannot be patient anymore, and we end up breaking the families that we contributed in building. So divorce is explicable in human behavior, human expectations, and human desires. How can a husband and a wife build a strong marriage in today's world? As I mentioned, if you make it your mission to please Allah by pleasing your husband, and your husband makes it his mission to please Allah by pleasing his wife, you both will be pleased and happy. If one of these formulas are not met, one of you will not be happy, and the marriage will keep sliding in the wrong direction. Is it okay to pray in a darker room, for example, the early dawn prayer, when the other people in the room are sleeping? Yes, it is okay. The Prophet ﷺ used to pray when his wife Aisha would be asleep, and her leg would sometimes come in his place of sujood, and he will touch her leg by his hand, and she would remove her legs away from his way for him to make prostration. So it is okay to pray in a dark room. It's okay to pray when somebody stretches their legs in front of you, even in your place of sujood. But when you come to the sujood, prostration, you touch them, you tap their leg lightly and nicely, and they will move away, or you move it nicely. Okay. I'm having only 2 more questions to go. Are women required to cover all her hands and feet while praying? I mean, not showing any sign of hands and feet, cover their socks. Well, this issue has different opinions among Muslim scholars, okay? The majority of scholars say that she should cover her feet. And they say it's okay to uncover her hand and face. Few scholars say she should cover also her hands. I happen to agree with the majority of scholars who say she should cover her feet and she does not have to cover her face or hands. In fact, there is a scholar who says that she should cover her face if she is praying in place, if she covers her face in public, okay? And if the place where she's praying is open to men to watch her or to see her. But if she does not cover her face in public, and she should not cover it inside the prayer. The last question, what are some of the red flags to look for while seeking for marriage? Well, first, make sure that your potential husband is not married to another person, unless this is something that you're looking for, which I do not really encourage. Okay? We are not short of good men. We are not short of men. We are not short of decent men.
Can we say that again? I missed that.
You missed it, or you want to reiterate it?
What? I missed it.
Okay. I said the first flag is make sure that your husband, potential husband, is not actually married to someone else. Because, and I put a caveat and I said, unless this is what you are looking for. Okay? The second flag is if the person talking to you and you see inconsistencies in his speech during the period of engagement, that's a red flag. If the person shows selfish attitudes or violent tendencies, that's a red flag. If the person is having a problem with his mother, with his sister, that's a red flag. If the person shows disrespect for his parents or one of them, that's a red flag. If the person uses the word, I don't care, a lot, that means that what he says is true. That's a red flag. I hope those are enough red flags for the day. This is the last question I have. Do we have a few minutes to take some of the written questions here?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
We'll be closing soon, though. So.
Okay. Let me look at the list here. Assalamu alaikum. I have to go. Okay. All parents decided their daughter to stay with them and no need for her to marry because she is 45 or over. They depend on their daughter in life. Is this okay for the daughter not to marry or to remarry? It depends. If she wants to get married and she is, or somebody is raising their hand, can you let me please first answer the question I have and then we can get to you? Okay.
Yes.
So if the daughter, which is 45 or older, accepts their parents' need for her service and she can do away with her own marriage, then this is a huge sacrifice. And I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward her immensely if they need her service. But if they can live without her living with them, then she should not sacrifice. She should be able to go about her marriage, and the parents could either be accommodating enough to have her and her husband live with them without interfering in their young family, or else that the daughter can be with her husband, and when he goes to his work, she can go to her family and serve her parents as much as she can. Okay, the other question is, if parents tell the son or daughter what to do, go some work, same house, and listen to them. If bring a new wife to move her husband parents' house, sad to leave her own parents away to live with husband's family house and give her a hard time, or what? If husband listen to the parents, then wife, why?
Does that sound like there's a divorce in there, that the divorced wife is now living with parents-in-law? and she's getting grief because of that.
Go some work, some house, and listen to her husband parents' house. I think no. I think that she's claiming that the husband obeys his parents no matter what, and his parents told him, "Bring your wife and come and live with us." And he listens to his parents much more than listening to his wife.
Okay.
This is what I have here. In the
okay.
question.
We'll go with that. Give me a second so I can break this down.
Please.
Okay.
Okay. Tell Sister Sasha to read her message.
Yes, I saw it.
Okay.
And I'm good with that.
The answer to this question is, let me explain what the question is about. The question is about a wife who doesn't want to live with her in-laws, and the in-laws insisting on the son, the husband, to bring his wife and come and live with them. Well, I believe the better way to handle this, if she knows that his parents are difficult to deal with, then she should be able to sit with him and convince him that this is not going to be possible because it's going to bring a lot of problems for us. But if she can deal with them and she can handle them nicely and respectfully without having problems, then she is encouraged to move on if she can. And she can try to say, okay, let us try it for a couple of months and see if there are no more problems because of your parents, then maybe I will like it myself and will continue because it saves us money and it saves your parents money. But if they are going to use her as a servant with abuse, then she should back off and say, I cannot live with your parents. I need to live in my own place. And Islam gives her that right. Okay? But if the parents are sick and the husband is the only one that can serve them, and the wife doesn't want to live with them, she should be clear from the beginning of the marriage, telling him, if whenever you want to live with your parents and I cannot take it because they are abusive or hurtful, allow me to get out of the marriage. If you cannot afford it, we can live next door, like the next door apartment, and you can serve them as much as you can, but I should be able to live separately. But if they are respectful, if they are kind, if they are compassionate, if they respect your expectations, then why not live with them and earn some hasanat, some good deeds by helping them in whatever way you can. Sasha, it is your question, and this has to come very quickly. One sentence and one sentence answer. Just a second. Just a second, Sister Aisha. Go ahead, Sasha.
We will soon be closing.
Okay. Sasha,
we're going to have to wait on that for next week.
Okay. Sasha, are you going to wait for next week? Okay, thank you.
Yes, I will.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Okay, God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, Chip. Thank you very much. Good to see you back.
Good to see you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.